this summer, a story. I had the opportunity this summer to do a hike in Yosemite that I've been wanting to do for years now. It's called the Upper Yosemite Falls hike. And you start at the base of the valley, for any of you that are familiar with it. And you hike to the top of Upper Yosemite Falls, which is about 3,200 feet. But you do it in just over 3 miles. So you're climbing about 1,000 feet every mile, which, if you don't know anything about hiking, imagine that you got on a flight of stairs and you don't stop for about 2.5 hours. So it's this unrelenting climb. And it really is. There's about 3 switchbacks, and the whole thing, you are just climbing for me, 2.5 hours. And there were periods along the trail, I was doing it alone, and everything about the trail is somewhat uninviting. You know, you start out and it's not really much wider. 2 people couldn't sit side by side, or couldn't really stand side by side on the trail. And there's just a cliff on this side of you, and then there's a wall of rock on this side of you. And as you start to get higher and higher, so now you've been climbing for about an hour, you're tired, then the granite turns into sand. So now you're slipping as you're coming down, and you have to watch every foot really carefully. And I did this hike this summer. I set out early in the morning and was about halfway, maybe 2/4 of the way up, or 3/4 of the way up. And I just stopped and sort of started talking to Master, because I knew I was going to make it to the top, but there were a lot of questions along the way. Why are we doing this? Why is this fun? What's the goal when we get to the top? And, it was such a beautiful and playful and fun moment just to sort of be with Master and kind of look at him as we see the next, you turn the next cliff, and then you're going up again, and then you make the next turn and you're going up again. And it never stops. You're not actually sure it's ever going to stop, but you're too far up to turn around and go back down. You have to make it. And so I just kept talking to Master over and over again and bringing him along the journey, and just feeling that sweetness of what it means to be in the midst of aspiration, of hope, of a goal. There was no accomplishment at the end of this other than standing on the top of that beautiful scene and looking out at the valley of Yosemite. But there was nothing I was gaining. There was no prize at the end of it. It was simply sheer aspiration, grit, willingness, desire. And in the midst of that, even though it was constant effort, even though you're questioning yourself along the way, it's such a joyful state of being, because it's so natural to our soul to want to be more, to want to grow, to want to be bigger than we are. Why? Because that light that is imbued into all of creation is constantly drawing us up into our soul's highest nature.